This woman used to be a deadly military intelligence agent, but now she lives as a humble street vendor selling twisted fried dough. Her hands are unbelievably quick. She stretches the dough, twists it in seconds, then tosses it straight into the hot oil. The result is perfect golden fried dough, cheap, delicious, and honestly good enough to taste like five-star food. It is no surprise that the line in front of her tiny stall stretches out every single day. Even though the business makes good money, she is absurdly stingy. She still wears her husband's old worn-out jacket like it is perfectly fine. But fate always has a way of surprising people. One day, while visiting her husband Seok Hwan's little electronics repair shop, Mi-young casually opens the cap of a cold drink and suddenly hits the jackpot.
뭐라고 써 있는 거야?
글자 뭐라는 거야?
와.
와?
와.
하와이?
하와이?
하와이? 하와이? 하와이?
The prize is a luxurious 7-day family vacation to Hawaii. For her husband, it feels like a dream finally coming true. The whole family quickly shuts down the stall, packs everything up, and rushes to the airport with their only daughter, Ah-young. At the same time, deep in the heart of Incheon, a mysterious man receives a phone call from his commander. He is told that Ha-na has finally been located and that she is expected to leave for Hawaii within the next 48 hours. The call ends there, and it is revealed that this man is Chul-sung, a North Korean secret agent. 11 years earlier in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, Chul-sung and another agent named Ha-na had been assigned to recover a nuclear warhead activation key from traitors who planned to sell it on the black market. But in the middle of that mission, Ha-na suddenly received a message through her communicator from General Park, her father. He told her the mission was canceled, ordered her to leave immediately, and warned her never to trust anyone. Then the signal cut off in the middle of a violent commotion. What Ha-na did not know at first was that General Park, a loyal commander to the North Korean president, had been betrayed by another political figure who wanted control of the nuclear weapon for his own personal gain. General Park was killed, and Ha-na sensed that something had gone terribly wrong. So she followed her father's final order, ran, and swore never to trust anyone again. That decision turned Chul-sung into an unintended victim. Since Ha-na could not risk the possibility that he might also be a traitor, she shot him and disappeared. From that moment on, Chul-sung carried a deep grudge and spent years determined to find her again. This is where the story begins. This is okay, madam. Back in the present, Mi-young and her family finally arrive at the airport. Since the flight is not full, the airline upgrades her and her daughter to first class. So the two of them get to relax in comfort like royalty, while her husband ends up in economy. Once she is seated, Mi-young is far more interested in the free perks than the luxury itself. Even the warm towel catches her attention, and she starts twisting it the same way she twists dough for fried bread. Then a flight attendant named Hyun comes by with snacks. Something goes wrong and the peanuts spill. But before even one of them can hit the floor, Mi-young catches every single one in midair. Hyun is completely stunned. He instantly suspects she must have been some kind of secret agent.
원? 국정원이요.
And is so impressed that he wants to learn her technique. But Mi-young just brushes it off with a calm smile, acting like it all comes from years of frying dough. Hyun is so amazed that he practically seems ready to quit aviation and start selling fried bread instead. Meanwhile, in the middle section of economy class, almost every seat is occupied. But in the back section, many seats are still empty. Sitting there alone is Chul-sung, quietly preparing his next move. He begins coordinating with his men to locate Ha-na, the traitor they have been hunting. Before long, the North Korean agents start getting up from their seats one by one. They spread out across the plane, scanning the passengers as they search for Ha-na. In the middle section of economy class, Seok Hwan strikes up a conversation with the elderly passenger sitting beside him. The man introduces himself as Il, a grandfather traveling to Hawaii to visit his grandchild. He even carries a teddy bear as a gift. Before long, the two of them grow friendly and start chatting comfortably. Up in the business class cabin, Mi-young suddenly begins to feel a terrible stomachache after eating far too many spicy peanuts. She rushes toward the restroom in the business section, only to discover that it is already occupied by the mysterious young woman seen earlier. With no other choice, she hurries off to find another restroom while trying to hold it in. Even in that moment, she still grabs a few extra spicy peanuts to bring back for her husband in economy. When she reaches the middle economy cabin, she greets Seok Hwan, who is still chatting with Grandpa Il. Seok Hwan introduces the two of them, and Mi-young quickly hands her husband the peanuts she brought for him. Then she asks him to switch seats with her and watch their daughter Ah-young in business class, while she finds another restroom. Seok-hwan immediately heads forward to the business cabin to keep an eye on their daughter. Meanwhile, near the restroom area in the middle economy cabin, several North Korean agents are quietly gathering and discussing the search for Ha-na, who still has not been located. Just then, Mi-young approaches the crowd, hoping to use the restroom. She assumes they are simply waiting in line like everyone else. Seeing the crowd, she decides to move on and search for another restroom at the very back of the plane. Back with the agents, Dong reports to Commander Chul-sung that Ha-na has not been found among the passengers. Hearing this, Chul-sung decides it is time to move forward with a more drastic plan. He orders his men to sabotage the flight. As the agents communicate through their walkie-talkies, flight attendant Hyun accidentally overhears their conversation about hijacking the plane. Alarmed, he quickly reports what he heard to the chief flight attendant, Mrs. Kim. Unfortunately, she dismisses the warning and assumes Hyun is joking. Moments later, the situation proves to be very real. Chul-sung and his men suddenly reveal pistols and knives, launching their hijacking operation. The passengers are ordered to gather in the middle economy cabin, where they can be easily monitored. Chul-sung then moves toward the cockpit while holding Mrs. Kim hostage. He threatens the pilot and warns that if the cockpit door is not opened, Mrs. Kim will be killed. With no other option, the pilot opens the door. After firing warning shots, Chul-sung forces him to change the plane's route and redirect the flight toward North Korea. Meanwhile, in Seoul, at the headquarters of the National Intelligence Service, an emergency meeting is being held. They have just received a report that a Hawaii air flight departing from South Korea has been hijacked. Fortunately, the NIS leadership receives a small piece of good news. One of their active agents happens to be aboard that very flight. The agency now hopes that this undercover agent might be the key to stopping the hijacking. Back inside the plane, the passengers gathered in the middle economy cabin remain under the watchful eyes of Chul-sung and his men. The North Korean agents continue searching through the crowd for Ha-na. Then Chul-sung notices a woman wearing a mask whose appearance resembles Ha-na. Suspicious, he approaches her and pulls the mask away. The mysterious woman turns out to be Sarah, one of the most famous K-pop stars in South Korea. From a distance, her face bears a strong resemblance to Ha-na, which explains why Chul-sung became suspicious. In reality, she had only been hiding her face to protect her privacy during the flight to Hawaii. The discovery leaves Chul-sung frustrated because Ha-na is still nowhere to be found on the plane. Back at NIS headquarters, new information arrives from the airline. The passenger list has finally been identified, and the result is shocking. One of the passengers on board is none other than Ha-na, a wanted fugitive of the North Korean government. She is known as a secret agent who betrayed her own country. Even more surprising, intelligence reports reveal that Ha-na has altered her appearance through plastic surgery to hide her identity. Meanwhile, back on the plane, Mi-young finishes using the restroom and prepares to leave. As she opens the door, several coins fall from her pocket and scatter across the floor. The noise catches the attention of a North Korean agent who is patrolling the cabin. Realizing that someone has been overlooked, the agent immediately opens the restroom door and attacks Mi-young with a knife. What happens next is completely unexpected. Mi-young easily disarms and defeats the agent without much effort. In that moment, the truth finally comes out. The mysterious Ha-na that the North Korean agents have been searching for is actually Mi-young herself, the middle-aged street vendor who has spent years hiding her identity behind a quiet life selling fried dough. After failing to locate her through the search, Chul-sung decides to take a different approach. Using the plane's speaker system, he issues a warning to Ha-na. If she does not surrender immediately, the plane will be brought down. Hearing this threat, Mi-young realizes she can no longer stay hidden. She has no choice but to return to her true identity as Ha-na, one of North Korea's most skilled secret agents. Quietly, she begins preparing her plan to fight back. Meanwhile, in the middle economy cabin, Seok-hwan asks his daughter Ah-young for permission to look for Mi-young, who has not returned since she left for the restroom. He asks Ah-young to stay calm and leaves her under the care of Grandpa Il. Then he quietly makes his way toward the back of the plane to search for his wife. When Seok-hwan finally reaches the rear cabin, he does not find Mi-young in the restroom. Instead, he notices a laptop lying on the floor nearby. Seeing it sparks an idea in his mind. Back in the middle cabin, one of the North Korean agents demands the passenger list from Mrs. Kim, the chief flight attendant. She refuses to hand it over, which forces the agent to take Hyun hostage. Hyun is ordered to lead him to the archive room where the passenger records are stored. While the agent is distracted with the passenger list, Seok-hwan quietly slips into the baggage compartment and finds a path that leads to the plane's engineering area. At the same time, Hyun is still being forced to guide the agent through the aircraft. Fortunately, Mi-young arrives just in time and quickly takes down the agent inside the archive room. This moment becomes the beginning of their alliance. From here, the counterattack finally begins. Mi-young deliberately destroys the passenger list to protect the identities and privacy of everyone on board. Meanwhile, in the engineering section of the aircraft, Seok-hwan reaches the control systems. Using the laptop he found earlier, he secretly hacks into the plane's systems. It soon becomes clear that Seok-hwan is far from an ordinary man. He is an extremely skilled and dangerous hacker. Back with Mi-young, she decides to disguise herself as a flight attendant to move around the plane without raising suspicion. Before leaving, she hands her waist bag, which contains the family's money and passports, to Hyun for safekeeping. Hyun also lends her a special communication watch that allows them to stay in contact. The two then split up to carry out their own plans. Hyun heads toward the baggage area to gather equipment that could be used as weapons, while Mi-young moves toward the middle cabin. Still disguised as a flight attendant, Mi-young calmly walks through the cabin while quietly taking down the North Korean agents guarding the area, one by one. The story shifts to the aircraft's engineering section. Flight attendant Hyun is startled when he notices someone already inside. He approaches carefully only to discover that the person working there is Seok-hwan. Hyun is stunned when he realizes that Seok-hwan has already hacked into the aircraft's control system. Seok-hwan then accesses a secure website used by the National Intelligence Service to contact headquarters. This is when his true identity is revealed. Seok-hwan is actually a former NIS agent. He quickly sends the identities of the hijackers to the agency and asks for permission to return to active duty. Unfortunately, the request is denied. Since Seok-hwan officially retired years ago, the NIS refuses to authorize his involvement. They even warn him that if he interferes without permission, his government pension will be frozen. With no official support, Seok-hwan is left in a frustrating position where he is technically not allowed to take action. However, the NIS shares an important update. According to their records, there is already an active NIS agent on board the plane. The agency plans to rely on that operative to resolve the crisis. The only problem is that the agent has not responded to any communication so far. Back in the middle economy cabin, Mi-young continues her quiet counterattack. She successfully takes down several North Korean agents while keeping her face covered, making sure her daughter Ah-young never realizes that her mother is actually a wanted North Korean operative. After clearing the enemies in the middle cabin, Mi-young begins moving toward the business class section. In the middle of this tense situation, Hyun contacts her through the communication watch he lent her earlier. He informs her that they have help from a retired NIS agent. After passing along the information, Hyun continues with his own plan to gather useful equipment from the baggage area. Meanwhile, Seok-hwan refuses to simply stand by and watch the hijacking unfold. Even without official permission, he decides to help in his own way. Instead of fighting, he uses his hacking skills. Quietly, he resets the plane's flight path back to its original destination, Hawaii. This sudden change causes turbulence and confusion throughout the aircraft. Unfortunately, the system interference also reveals Seok-hwan's location to Chul-sung. Realizing someone is tampering with the controls, Chul-sung personally heads to the engineering section. Before Seok-hwan can react, a gun is pressed against his back, and he is captured without resistance. At the same time, Mi-young continues fighting in another part of the plane. This time, she faces Dong, who proves to be a much tougher opponent. After a fierce struggle, Mi-young finally manages to defeat him, but her victory is short-lived. Chul-sung suddenly appears, holding the captured Seok-hwan at gunpoint. With her husband's life on the line, Mi-young has no choice but to surrender. Both of them are then escorted to the rear cabin through the middle economy section, passing the frightened passengers along the way. Ah-young watches her parents being taken away, clearly distressed, though she tries her best to remain strong. As a trained intelligence officer, Chul-sung is not easily fooled. He begins to suspect that the little girl staring at the prisoners might be related to Ha-na. His suspicion grows as he studies her reaction. Before the situation can escalate, Grandpa Il quickly steps in and pretends to be the girl's guardian in order to protect her. Even in Sarah, the famous K-pop star, helps by claiming to be Young's mother. Their quick thinking successfully removes Chul Sung's suspicion, and the child is left alone. The story then moves to the rear cabin, where Seo Kwon and Mi Young are being held. With the situation growing more serious, the two finally reveal the secrets they have been hiding from each other. Seo Kwon admits that he is a retired NIS agent. Years ago, he was assigned to monitor Mi Young, who was known to be a North Korean fugitive. During that mission, he disguised himself as a homeless man while keeping a close eye on her. But something unexpected happened. After witnessing Mi Young's kindness while she lived undercover as a street food vendor, Seo Kwon genuinely fell in love with her. Seo Kwon finally confesses that he did not marry Mi Young as part of a surveillance mission. He tells her that his feelings were genuine and that he truly fell in love with her. Hearing this clears up the misunderstanding Mi Young had been carrying for years. She had always believed their marriage might have started as part of a mission, but now she realizes his love was real. With the truth finally out in the open, the two of them feel a sense of relief. Meanwhile, back in the middle economy cabin, the passengers quietly begin planning their own resistance while the North Korean agents are distracted. Suddenly, 3 quiet male passengers, who had barely spoken since the flight, began move into action and easily overpower several of Chul Sung's men. Moments later, Dong arrives to confront them. It is then revealed that the 3 men are actually part of Dong's group. From the very beginning, they had been waiting for the right moment to betray their own commander, Chul Sung. Dong and his group have their own agenda. They want to seize the nuclear warhead key for themselves and sell it on the black market for profit. Because of this betrayal, Chul Sung is captured by his own subordinates. He is tied up and locked in the rear cabin of the plane. Dong then orders the pilot to lower the plane to a much lower altitude. His plan is simple but dangerous. He and his group intend to jump from the aircraft using parachutes while taking Hana with them. Back in the rear cabin, Seo Kwon and Mi Young are shocked to see Chul Sung now imprisoned alongside them. It is hard to believe that he has been betrayed by his own men. Chul Sung quickly realizes what Dong is planning. He suspects that Dong intends to take Hana with him during the parachute escape and sell her on the black market. The reason Hana is so valuable is because her eyes hold the key to activating North Korea's nuclear warhead system. The biometric key was created years ago by her father, General Park. According to Chul Sung, the general intentionally designed the warhead system to recognize Mi Young's pupil as its activation key. He also confirms that General Park was killed 11 years ago after being betrayed by a power-hungry political rival. After hearing this revelation, Mi Young, Seo Kwon, and Chul Sung realize they share the same goal. They must stop Dong and take back control of the plane to save the passengers. Just then, Flight Attendant Hyun suddenly appears from the aircraft's ventilation shaft carrying several tools, including a stun weapon he managed to obtain. Hyun quickly frees the 3 captives from their restraints. The 4 of them immediately divide their roles. Seo Kwon and Hyun head toward the engineering section to control the plane through hacking and system access. Meanwhile, Mi Young and Chul Sung prepare to confront Dong and his men directly. What follows is an intense fight. Working together, Mi Young and Chul Sung manage to defeat Dong and his group after a fierce struggle. In the end, the hijacking is finally stopped, and the plane is safe again. After everything settles down, Hyun and Mi Young return the items they had borrowed from each other earlier. Around them, the passengers begin to recover from the chaos. Grandpa Il and the others also appear to be safe. Grandpa Il then leads Young to reunite with her parents and even gives the little girl the teddy bear he had brought as a gift. But in a shocking turn of events, Grandpa Il suddenly pulls out a gun and shoots Chul Sung while he is distracted. Everyone is stunned by the sudden attack. The truth is finally revealed. Grandpa Il, who had appeared to be a harmless old man throughout the flight, is actually the hidden mastermind behind everything. He is the political rival of General Park, the father of Hana. 11 years earlier, it was Grandpa Il who orchestrated the assassination of General Park in order to seize control of North Korea's nuclear weapon. Holding Young hostage, Grandpa Il demands a trade. He wants Mi Young to jump from the plane with him using a parachute. To make sure she obeys, he reveals that a bomb has already been planted on the aircraft. If Mi Young refuses, he threatens to detonate it. Seeing his family in danger, Seo Kwon quickly raises a stun gun and aims it at Grandpa Il. Unfortunately, the device fails to fire. The malfunction gives Il the chance to react, and in a flash, he shoots Seo Kwon. With her husband wounded and her daughter in danger, Mi Young has no choice but to follow Il's demands. She puts on the parachute while quietly whispering instructions to Young. She tells her daughter to throw away the teddy bear that Il gave her when the time is right. When the emergency door is finally opened, everything happens in seconds. Ah Young throws the teddy bear out of the plane, and in that moment of distraction, Mi Young shoves Grandpa Il out through the open door. The truth is revealed almost immediately. The teddy bear had been hiding the bomb that Il was threatening to use. Moments later, the bomb explodes in the air along with Grandpa Il as he falls away from the aircraft. After the explosion, Mi Young and Ah Young rush over to Shou Quan, who had been shot earlier. At first, Mi Young fears the worst, but it turns out that Shou Quan had been wearing a bulletproof vest that Chul Sung secretly gave him before their fight. Even Chul Sung, who had been shot earlier, is revealed to have survived. With the crisis over, Chul Sung wastes no time. He says his farewell to Mi Young and her family. In his eyes, the mission to bring Ha Na back to North Korea has already failed. He plans to report to his superiors that many of his own men betrayed him during the operation. With a parachute on his back, Chul Sung jumps from the plane and disappears into the sky. Meanwhile, the pilot finally reunites with the chief flight attendant, Mrs. Kim, who also happens to be his wife. Relieved that she is safe, the pilot explains that NIS has ordered the plane to return to South Korea. However, the passengers strongly object. After everything they have been through, they still want to continue their trip to Hawaii. In the end, the pilot decides to cooperate with them. He reports back to NIS that the aircraft no longer has enough fuel to immediately return to Korea and must first land in Hawaii to refuel. NIS eventually agrees with the decision. Even so, the agency remains confused about one thing. There was supposed to be an active NIS agent on that flight, yet that person never reported the hijacking. Instead, the only person who contacted them was Seo Kwan, a man who had already retired years ago. While the mystery remains unsolved, the passengers take matters into their own hands. The unconscious North Korean agents are tied up with ropes so they can be handed over to authorities later. Not long after, the plane finally lands safely in Hawaii. As soon as they arrive, Seo Kwan and his family begin enjoying their long-awaited vacation. During their time there, Seo Kwan finally decides to confess something to Mi Young. The trip to Hawaii was never the result of a lucky bottle cap prize. In truth, the entire vacation had been carefully planned by Seo Kwan himself. He had secretly used the pension money he had been saving for 10 years to make this trip possible. Mi Young is completely shocked when she hears the truth. The prize-winning bottle cap had been nothing more than a trick created by her husband to convince her to take the vacation. Instead of feeling touched, she becomes furious, realizing that the pension money could have been used for something much more practical. The story returns to the airport in Hawaii. After all the passengers have left the plane, one person is still sitting quietly in his seat. It is the office worker who had been suffering from severe air sickness earlier in the flight. He finally wakes up from his deep sleep after taking an entire bottle of sleeping pills. When he checks his phone, he is shocked to see hundreds of messages and dozens of missed calls from his supervisor. At that moment, the truth comes out. This seemingly unimportant passenger is actually the active NIS agent who was supposed to be on the plane. His name is Nam. Unfortunately, during the entire hijacking incident, he did absolutely nothing because he had passed out from the sleeping pills. Because of his complete failure to respond during the crisis, the agent now faces the possibility of being dismissed from the intelligence service. Several months later, Mi Young has returned to her normal life. She is back at the market, once again selling her famous fried dough. One day, a group of people suddenly arrives at her stall, claiming to be representatives from a travel agency. They tell her that she has supposedly won a lottery voucher for a vacation to Disneyland. Mi Young immediately becomes suspicious. She does not remember buying any lottery ticket at all. This makes her wonder if her husband might be behind another elaborate trick. And with that possibility hanging in the air, it seems that this family's strange and unpredictable adventures are far from over. The story finally comes to an end. So the moral of the story is never mess with a fried dough seller on a plane, because she might secretly be a super spy.